States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this evening. Even though it doesn't look like the best of evenings out there, we know that this rain brings nourishment to farmers' crops, to people's gardens, and we just thank you for the ability to gather here this evening. We thank you for your guidance and wisdom upon not just this body, but we just thank you for your love upon this community. We thank you for each and every individual, and we thank you for how I'm sorry, Father. We thank you for how you love us unconditionally. It doesn't matter what our name is, what our title is, where we come from, where we work, what our skin color is, what our sizes are. It doesn't matter. We thank you that you love us unconditionally and help us to look upon others in the very same way and to help this community come together under you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Right. Jan, if you would, roll call.
Brandon Elmore,
Present.
Bob Leahy,
Here.
Jason Brewer, no, Tim Heiss,
Here.
Tito Frias.
Here.
Yeah, Jason had a flat tire in Lewisburg, I think it was. Yeah, so he's getting towed back to home and doesn't know when he's going to be back, so keep him in your thoughts. Consent agenda. I did have a couple things that Tito wanted me to address, and I thought I'd go and do that now because I'm going to have some insight from Steve as well. On the UC, the Microbrewer Hub City Finance Building, that building, we are still working on the structure of the building itself. And before the entity that provided Roots, that provided the only proposal for the business to go inside there, before they would go inside and start their work, we're trying to secure the structure itself still. So we've secured the floor, which it's scary what goes on in these buildings that we don't know about, because we didn't realize the floor was actually disattached from the south wall. Correct? I have that correct?
Correct.
Just like the Vision Corner, that floor, the old Miami Theater, that floor collapsed weeks after getting into that building. And so it's just, it's disconcerting because some of these structures I fear are in worse shape than we realize until we get in and really start, so trying to preserve our downtown. And so if you'll notice now what's going on currently is the tuck pointing, the masonry work to secure the brick. And so again, and then eventually the windows and the door. So that would be the facade. We'd be done with that. It was actually an investor that met with Roots this morning to take that next step for their business. The other two items were the UC Pavilion. Now, I apologize, Tito, you threw me off when I saw these tiles because that's how they're labeled in the consent agenda. The pavilion refers to actually up on the corner next to Motley Shop, the grass area, and it's just an overhang for structure for the markets, the outdoor markets. So it's to provide coverage. Yeah. So when I saw pavilion, I was like, I don't know anything about the pavilion. So it did freak me out for a second. But that's how it's labeled in the consent agenda like that. But I apologize. That's not what it is. And that is that structure, and that's to facilitate like second. I don't know if any of you guys were up here for Second Saturday. It was a good day up here downtown. But then the open air community center, that's another one that threw me off. That is the space, the pocket park, if you will. It used to be a pocket park between Art Hub and the microbrewery that's coming. That space, the reason why, if anybody ever wonders, why did they rip out that pocket park, which it was pretty, but it had to be ripped out because there was foundational work that had to be done on Moat's building. Yeah. And so they had to do that. So when it created an empty space, we thought, well, instead of putting a pocket park back in there, why not try to open it up for business, for retail usage, or for the market usage, outdoor market concept. So if you guys remember, about a month and a half, 2 months ago, we talked about the concept, but we said it'd be good for you guys to have a picture or a visual before any work would be done, so we know what we're looking at before we would commit to anything. That's what that money's for, is for the plans. And you've got one drawing so far, correct?
I have 2 structures, drawings for that, and I have one drawing for the facade and or the front facade.
Yeah, that's right.
And I just haven't presented it because I haven't located the right funding avenue to present it.
Gotcha.
To tie that to.
Yeah, because from a budget standpoint, we're not in a position where we can do any physical work there this year.
The pavilion, the Amish is building it at no cost, and all we're doing is buying the building material.
Yeah.
So
But once we've got the next 6-7 months to land on a design for the outdoor market down here, and that way, hopefully, God willing, we'd be lined up for a spring build, which would be perfect for the when things start opening up again.
Sounds good.
So that's the scoop on all of that. Then, if you don't mind, on the he had a question also about the Oak Street, Columbia. If anybody was curious why it was broken down like that, that was all the subsequent charges. Did you look at the consent agenda, how BCA, they had the various charges in there?
yeah, that's just the charges for basically the management and evaluation processes with finishing the grant and babysitting door, and then subsequently babysitting American Decorative Concrete and all those things. That's just invoices for those charges. Theoretically, all that money will come back to us once we gain full access to the bonds and everything from door and their failure.
Yeah. And so BCA, when they were here,
I paid all this because council okayed me to pay those.
That was all okay.
Remember,
At
to pay those.
was that the
until
last
we
meeting?
got reimbursed because we
Or
just-
2 meetings
I
ago?
don't remember last meeting.
Yeah.
BCA was actually measuring the compaction of it when they would do the backfill when ADC, thank you, so many abbreviations. ADC was doing the backfill. BCA would do the compaction testing to make sure that it was at the level it was supposed to be, so that way 4 years from now we don't have a sinkhole in there like we had up on the
Here
corner.
yeah.
And so they would measure constantly. And then they were also grading anything that was taken out. They were evaluating that to make sure there wasn't contaminants being removed, that what was in there wasn't contaminated and then being taken somewhere else and creating a problem for someone else. So it was a rather extensive process, but that's why and they were here every day. That if there was somebody working here, BCA was here because they were the oversight, if you will. So that's why that was listed like that. And for myself on the department reports, because we have no presenters on the agenda, I just want to call 3 shout-outs real quick. State Line Heritage Days volunteers, just thank you for everybody that helped out with that. Because I know there's a lot of effort behind the scenes with that, and think that's not always an easy thing to do. And so appreciate the volunteers that worked with that. Second Saturday Market, once again, I was going to call out Jason, the Cars and Coffee. That was a cool turnout down here on Pearl. And then everybody was milling about on Saturday. So thank you for everybody that makes that possible. And then the rodeo Saturday evening. I walked out there with my wife and daughter and her boyfriend, and I was amazed. I mean, there were a lot of folks out there, and folks from all over. And it's just amazing how it seems, now it is from the eye test, so I haven't done a head count, so I don't know. But it seems like it gets a little bit bigger every time they have it. It seems like it keeps growing. So I thank you for them, Kobe Wells and everybody that helps put that together. Every single volunteer, thank you, because it was phenomenal. It was outstanding. So that's all I have. Jan, you have anything? Council members, Tito, we'll start with you.
Yes, 2 things. First, I wanted to do a shout out to. I'm sorry.
Sorry, but we didn't okay the amendments.
Oh crap! You're right. Yeah, do I have any other questions on the consent agenda? Thank you. Sheesh.
I'll move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, we have a first, we have a second.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Was that Tim?
Yeah.
Yeah, my apologies. Good grief. Okay, sorry, Tito. That was my fault.
That's okay. So I just wanted to do a shout out to Mr. Sham Kaiser. He is the owner of the Racing Museum
Yeah.
on the Ohio side. I think that's on Division Street, like close to the railroad tracks. Just so the public knows that we have an actual museum about everything related to racing. And so I met with him, and so big recommendation that we, as city council, should maybe take a good look over there. And of course, the public, they're open from 9 to 4 on Saturdays, and from 10 to 4 Monday through Friday. Just a couple things that they have. There's a gentleman named Ivan Thornburg who had worked in the railroad tower, and he was a person who was responsible for switching the railroads whenever trains would come through and needed to switch railroad tracks. He was into racing, so there's memorabilia about him and things about him there, represented. We also have Brady Bacon, who lives between here and Winchester, and who has 4 national championships. So there are memorabilia about him. Just so we have history and current, people in race, and it's all about racing. So it's also motorcycles and cars, and soapbox derby, and all different kinds of racing that there can be. So just to have people check that out.
That's awesome.
Thank you. So the second thing is just a question. The rumor mill has been milling, and so I've been asked if I could get a yay or a nay or an explanation or something. So apparently someone has thinks or believes that there is a big coffee cup is being built, maybe for our coffee shop downtown, and that's being done at Nick's Automotive. And the question is, or the rumor is, that the city is paying for that.
We have actually had it done, yes, because we still own that building, and that's part of our development plan for that back area, because we have not only a drive-through through there, but the Preservation Society is doing the what used to be the Chevy, help me, Motors building. What was that? Chrysler Motors? Chrysler Motors building. That's being redone for a museum dedicated to Workhorse and Body Company. And then we've got the alley that is under transformation right now because of the side building that's getting done. So when that gets put back together, that will be a corridor down there that's gathering area. And so we're trying to clean all of that up.
So that back alley area behind the coffee shop, all that area?
Yes, yeah. And then that will be a drive-through, like a half-moon drive-through back through there. And so yes, we are, because we're trying to, regardless, since the city still owns that building, regardless of whether whoever's in there now or down the road, we want it to be accessible because we've done our homework, and a drive-through adds 30% to retail businesses. So if we're adding 30% to retail businesses, we're incentivizing not only retail businesses for downtown, but we're also recouping more tax dollars for the community. So, and it's also more likely that when people come in from outside the community, a lot of times they're apt to go through a drive-through before heading home than they are or heading to work, so to speak. So yeah, we're trying to capitalize on that while we have the structure. So yes. It's strange. I know that sounds bizarre. I know it sounds crazy. Welcome to our world. We're going to continue to try to think differently and be different, because we also think, and I could be totally wrong in this, but youth love selfies and different things to take pictures in front of and have different things behind them. This would be something that people would want to grab a shot of, and people are like, no, wait a second, people stand by drive-thru. No, you don't, but it's closed in the evenings, so I mean, people will grab pictures of it, and that will be marketing for the downtown.
Yeah.
So we're marketing ourselves, in essence, is what we're doing. We're promoting ourselves, we're branding ourselves. So I understand if somebody heard that and they're like, what in the world are they thinking, or what are they doing? I understand that, I get that, I know it's unorthodox. But again, it's all our efforts to brand ourselves and promote ourselves. because we want to draw people. We got to be different.
Right.
If we put up I listen to a podcast now, and I heard this podcast. This guy's from Alabama, actually, and helps with economic development in a small town. And this isn't meant to disparage Ruby Tuesdays at all, because I love Ruby Tuesdays. But he goes, when you travel, you rarely go up to someone and say, I had the best Ruby Tuesdays meal ever. You don't usually say that. But you will tell people about a cool barbecue place you ate at, or a really neat coffee shop you went to, or something that's different. You'll talk about and brag about and all that, but you don't normally talk about your
Chain.
Yeah, you don't brag about your chain places.
Yeah.
And again, that's not to disparage chain places, because I go through them all the time. They're great, wonderful. But if you're going to be different, this is some of the things you do.
Especially in a smaller community.
Yeah, exactly.
out.
And you're exactly right, because a lot of times people will travel to small communities just to see the flavor of that community. They're not going to go somewhere to see a Starbucks. They can see that anywhere, but they'll go to a small community to see something different, just to check it out for the day. And so that's happening more and more, these day trips, that people take, So yeah. So.
One of the things that we need to be doing that's part of that concept too, is even for local people to see the access. I don't think some people realize the parking that's back in that area.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
and the city has a parking.
We've got our own parking lot over there.
Here.
Nobody knows,
and those don't get utilized. And sometimes people pass through a downtown area and don't stop because, I don't see a parking space.
Yep.
It's hard to park.
Exactly.
To do things.
And that's part of this too.
Get that, and I've seen this in a lot of other downtown areas where they have areas behind their, basically off street and behind their main street that opens up like that, and then that gives some access.
Yeah.
We should have signs too.
Yeah,
Well,
we're going to work on signage, because we want,
signage.
that's a huge thing, is additional parking, because it drives me nuts. I've actually had to have a conversation already about there's nowhere to park on Columbia Street. Well, number one, I love that problem, to be honest. But number two, if you just turn the corner, Pearl Street's got tons of parking spaces right down it.
Pearl Street
Down
does,
the-
and it's like if
By
I
the
go,
bank.
Yeah.
By the bank.
if I go to
Yeah.
Roots, to get some deli meat or something, I usually just drive around back.
Yeah,
Just go
yeah,
back,
because
go in the
but
back.
to your point, a lot of people won't or don't know that's there,
A lot
and
of
so
people
we've got
don't
to
know
promote
that's
it.
there. So if you get the drive-through going, get signage to it, and then they'll, hey, there's plenty of parking back.
Yeah, and we've got to promote it, and we've got to promote the ease of it. Because another thing on that podcast was really interesting. This guy he talks to folks all the time, and he says, name your 3, 4, 5 best places you've ever been. And a lot of times, or the most exciting places. And a lot of times they'll name like big event places or big things like concerts or sporting events or you name it, big things. And they had to walk blocks to get there.
Mm-hmm.
They had to walk blocks to get there, but yet people will get upset if they can't park right in front of the place they're going to in a small town.
Right.
And so that's a perception we've got to work on. If you find value in this, what we have to offer, we want you to be willing to walk half a block to
Right.
get to it, and we're hoping you find it worth it, but we're going to make it easy for you to get there. We want to make it easy for you to...
Yeah, go to Indianapolis and
Oh, mercy.
go to a couple places. You may park in the parking garage, and you still walk.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And you
So
paid
it's-
to park.
A lot of it's perception, and perspective. So, but anyway, I appreciate that. Is there anything else?
That's all I have for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Tim?
I don't have anything.
Bob?
The only thing I have is there's no area planning commission meeting this month,
Okay.
so that's it.
All right. And Brandon?
I didn't have anything this evening.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Steve?
I'm on the agenda, so I'll just wait for that.
Okay. And we should have Josiah in the next meet. I'm hoping next meeting is when he'll start up again for the school. Old business. Ordinance 2023-12, which is the ordinance to amend Chapter 90 of the codified ordinances of the City of Union City. This is on the second reading. Can you refresh me? Is this the one we made a tweak to last time, didn't we?
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is the livestock,
The horses one.
Yeah, and this is the one with the amendment from the first time.
I put the one with the amendment in it.
Yes,
It was
thank you.
left the same, except for, there was a statement in there that said horses shall be allowed within the municipality for the purpose of marketing, events, task, and leisure activity.
Good.
And that's what he wanted added. Tia suggested that we add that sentence, as Steve
Very
said.
good. So we've obviously made no changes since then, obviously. This is as it was approved in the first reading. So any questions? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve ordinance 2023-12 on second reading.
We have a first on title only. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Jan, if you would, roll call vote.
Brandon Elmore,
Yes.
Bob Leahy.
Yes.
Tim Heiss.
Yes.
Tito Frias.
Yes.
And new business, we have the backstay sidewalk. I've given you the email exchange I had between the owner of the project and myself, stating to him that, I would present everything to you guys. I told him where council stated previously that, it didn't look like the project was done, actually, because there's still like scaffolding up inside there and some stuff. Drywall hadn't been painted.
Right.
And then you've seen his response. He states basically that it's already to market, and that there's flexibility left for folks going in to be able to choose, I guess, the details they wanted. Otherwise, it's kind of left open air, open concept, I guess, with the bare walls.
If he's saying that it's open or it's ready to market, has he actually put it up for lease?
That's a great question. He says, I've asked the management company to begin marketing that space. So I don't know if it's physically up for lease.
I wouldn't think so.
I can't answer that.
'Cause I feel like I mean, he's saying one thing, he's ready to get paid, but there's some things not done, and he's spinning it that it's open concept to where the tenant could potentially do
Pick the
pick
paint
the
flooring.
Yeah.
See that? That's still my concern as well.
Well, that's to not to just come to his defense, but that is a fairly common in marketing office space, particularly that you have a bare space and then it's customized to the needs of the
tenant
of the lessee
Okay.
and so while it's, I guess, taking him at his word that it is up for market, and I suppose the only thing that would change that is if we had somebody say, yeah, I inquired about it and they said it wasn't ready, or they did that, but we're not armed with that. So I don't know. Do we have any reason to not take him at his word that it's?
I mean, I have no reason to not take him at his word. He's followed through with everything.
Yeah.
He's been
Seems
slow
like it.
at some junctures, but he has followed through with everything. I would, I mean, Crestline is the company that manages it, and I mean, I would think with a little bit of due diligence, we could reach out to them. So if you guys wanted to pass something, I could talk to Madison in the morning and reach out to Crestline, make sure that it's ready to be marketed before we write the check. But those are conversations that are fairly easy. Madison's in the office every day, and getting a hold of Crestline is not an issue. I just didn't do it before tonight's meeting.
That would be a compromise, though. Not release funds.
Well, that's
until-
why I say we could make a with the
With the,
proviso that the verification of the
right.
of ready to be of it being available to the market. So
I mean, I would agree with Tim that that's pretty commonplace for places like that. They paint and put partition walls and things up to kind of build the suit, once it's leased. But, I have no reason to believe that he's not being honest with you.
yeah, I mean I've seen that kind of thing before.
Okay. Well, that makes me feel good.
That,
And he did agree to the tax
Yes,
issue that
mhm.
even less than what maybe we even thought,
Sure.
he would agree to, so.
True. But then I would entertain a motion contingent upon Steve's checking with management at Crestline.
I'll make the motion that we approve the payment of $32,455.71 contingent on verification by the city manager that the space is ready and available to his satisfaction.
We have a first, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Jane, if you would roll call vote.
Brandon Elmore,
Yes.
Bob Leahy.
Yes.
Tim Heiss,
Yes.
Peter Frias.
Yes.
Alright, now the handicap, oh no, I'm sorry, YMCA promissory note forgiveness. This was done back, when you guys' feet was still really wet, done back in 2020 during the pandemic for the YMCA. And I don't know if you've had a chance to, hopefully you've had a chance to read through the original note. They've asked for, they inquired about forgiveness, and it's written in a way that, I mean, you guys have that right. So I guess it's before council to consider forgiveness for the daycare, the Y daycare, from the funds that were extended to them during the pandemic. And I believe, was that ARP funds that we utilized to give to them? No, we couldn't have.
I
Because
think it was
you can't loan ARP funds. So it was not ARP funds.
No,
So-
because it would have been.
Yeah, you can't loan.
It would have
ARP
been
funds.
before. That the ARP funds kind of came out more after.
Yeah, you're
towards the
right.
end
That's
of
true.
the
That's
pandemic.
true anyway. Yeah, you're right. Timing wouldn't have been right. But yeah,
Yeah.
you can't loan ARP funds, so it would have been that.
Chad, can you give us a kind of a quick rundown of the I guess the standing of the daycare?
The status
how they're,
of it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
how they're doing.
The good, according to my last meeting with Yvette, they are maxed out and they need more space.
Oh wow. That's
Yeah,
good.
so that's a turnabout that's a 180 from where we were a couple years prior to that for sure, if not even a year prior to that. So, so that's where they're at. They're actually inquiring from Wesley what they would be willing to, what price would it take to get the rest of the building, just have the whole building, so they could add it, so they could expand into that space.
And there would be. There's probably several places that the Wesley store could go.
Yes, correct, because they've actually talked about building.
Yeah.
So
either or. I mean,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, correct.
Let's say like beside Cal Pharmacy or something out. That would.
And that's true too.
So-
Yeah, that's a great point. So the daycare, that seems, now this is I'm speaking personally here, so take it for what's worth. That they seem, I get the notion that they would like to stay there because it's just easier just to grow into that next space.
Right.
Since they're already set up and they've got the kitchen, everything's there.
Playground.
Yeah, playground, exactly. So they're set up well there, as opposed to trying to look at another location where they'd have more space and may have to start from scratch, which would be
I was talking
really
about.
expensive.
I was mainly talking about the Wesley store, not
Yeah.
The
so we're
daycare.
moving that.
Yeah, no, I know. But I was talking about the daycare.
But they-
The daycares.
And
yeah.
it makes sense to stay there.
stay
Yeah.
there. Absolutely.
It's much easier for them to stay there than would be Wesley.
right.
Because Wesley is just an open space,
Yeah.
so they can go a lot of different places for that matter. But again, that's between them.
Right.
So that's the status of the Y daycare.
Can we spread that out over quarters, or do we need to?
No, this
No, I mean we've already spent
we've already
funds.
paid the money. This is
Yeah, that's spent funds from 2020. So I mean it doesn't affect our budget all going forward.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Aside from if you guys insist on them sticking with the note going forward.
Yeah, because the idea was there was a
My
repayment
bad.
schedule within it,
Right,
but there was
repayment
forgiveness
schedule,
clauses for
Right.
each payment.
I don't recall forgiveness. I know that there was some. They didn't make a certain amount of money that they weren't required to pay that month, but then the
Right.
following month, but not forgiveness.
And if you want them to present to you guys, I mean that's an option too. It's whatever you guys call it.
I would say that I'd like to gather a little more information, but
That's fine.
I mean
Go for it.
I'm not adverse to it, but I'd
Right.
like to
Yeah.
maybe gather a little bit more information.
That's fine.
Maybe have CN come over. And,
Well, it's
But
not
she's not
saying
involved in it.
Yeah.
that's an old signature.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, let's go back a generation.
That's right. My bad.
No, you're good. You're good. So yeah, if you guys want to vet that out, what is here with this chair now?
But the YMCA is still involved with that, right?
Yes, yeah, they
Okay.
still run it. Yeah, they still run the daycare.
Because I know there was some talk at one point that
Yes,
they
yeah.
may not proceed with those, but okay. I know it's a tough business.
It is, and well, we've got to be transparent. I think that was part of the concern is where they would be in having to pay this back.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, then but that, in all fairness, does speak to Tim's point. It's like, well, I would like to see a little bit, you know, if you had some figures in front of you, like, oh, okay, I see where they're coming from.
Yeah.
This makes sense. If you at least had the numbers in front of you. So I understand that.
So, what is the request? Is there a request or something? I mean, why is it coming up now? I mean, we agreed to it before. We're good, but
Because the payback period.
oh, it would be extended.
No, not extended. I mean,
Forgive.
because the contract, the way it's set up is they're supposed to be paying it back as of this.
Earlier in the year.
Yeah, earlier this year. This year is when it started, the payback.
Oh,
February.
Yeah.
And they did not make payments. Basically, they didn't meet the threshold. Didn't.
They have not made
Requirements.
any payments, correct?
Uh-huh. So they just need more time, right? Because I remember there's a clause in there that says if they didn't make so much profit, and I forget the amount, that they wouldn't be required to pay that month. That doesn't mean that's forgiven. Is it?
Forgiveness means to,
Forgive the whole.
Forgive
amount
the
is
whole
what they're
amount.
asking for.
that's what they want.
Or we're considering.
That's what they want.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't a judgment. Sorry.
I mean, like I said, you guys are willing to vet this out for the.
Basically, at that point, you're deciding whether you want to make that investment, turn that loan into an investment into that project.
Right.
That's what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is that a
For me, it's. I mean, I think I argued early on in our tenures that we needed more options for childhood, for child care
Mm-hmm.
in Union
We
City.
did.
With YMCA, we get that.
Yeah.
It is a nonprofit. However, it is a paid service, and for the individuals, for families who cannot afford it, the state provides vouchers.
Supposed to.
yeah?
It's supposed to.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're getting any,
Oh, that's a good question. I do not.
because this community could use some of that.
I think there is a certain number that are. So, but that's some of the information we
That
don't
would be nice to have. Yeah.
Right.
Nice to have.
If they could do a presentation,
You want me to reach out to? Okay.
Yeah,
I
that
will
would
do
be
that.
great. Then we can take a closer look.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, and then, excuse me, last item, the handicap parking space on Union Street. I will turn this over to Steve.
So we have a Hispanic family on Union Street that have placed I'm not sure where they came up with it, but it's a rather generic handicap parking space. They do have handicap plates. They do have a handicapped child. They had trouble from where they have relocated from on state line with having access to emergency vehicles and parking in front of their house to get their child in and out of the house effectively. They've purchased a house on Union Street. It's in the I don't know the address exactly, but it's in the 600 block, and they've come up with this sign. They've put it up themselves. We've had some neighborly complaints, primarily because it's not an approved by council handicap spot, and I would respectfully request that council approve this. We will put a city-issued sign up, and it will be a legitimate handicap parking space for this specific instance, so that there's always room for them to get their child in and out.
And I'm assuming they have like the handicap.
They've got handicap placards in their
Plates
vehicles and plates, and it's a legit thing.
Right.
And I mean, they're not trying to pull one over on the neighbors, but we did get a few complaints. I've gone down and talked to them. They put it up just because when they moved into the house, they wanted to make sure they could always park right in front of their sidewalk and they could get their kid in and out. And I agree, but at the same time, we gotta do it correctly.
Right.
So
Just do it.
I just need your permission to add it to the list of handicap designated parking spaces.
That's just one spot, right?
Mhm.
Okay. I think it makes sense to me. I mean,
Sure does.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm all for it.
Is that in the form of a motion?
There'll have
Yes.
to be an ordinance passed, so,
So
So we'll
consensus.
have to,
yeah, we don't really need Steve to go ahead and write it and then present it, so it doesn't
Cool.
matter what he's saying now.
Okay.
yeah.
So we have a consensus to
Well, I
move
didn't
forward.
think we had to
Yes.
write a new ordinance. I thought we just added
We
it to
had
the
to-
existing ordinance.
You don't write a new one, you amend that section of the
All right.
To
codified
include that
ordinances.
location.
Yeah.
Easily done, but you still have to do it then.
Yeah.
All for
Got
it.
it. So I'll have
Yeah.
that for
So
you.
we have a
next time.
consensus.
Yes.
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 Very good. All right. Visitors wishing to address the board, please, if you would stand, state your name, address, and nature of business. You have 2 minutes. All right. Next board meeting or council meeting will be Monday, August 28th at 6 p.m. The day of the Board of Public Works meeting is Monday, also August 28th at 1 p.m. I would hereby entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
We have first, we have a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.